Yes, you can indeed be sent to prison in connection with your refusal to pay council tax. But of course, it's not quite as simple as that, so please do watch the rest of the video for a bit more clarity. Now, I'm quite concerned with a number of videos circulating online and the narrative that's been put across. That being that council tax is somehow a fraud, there's somehow no liability to pay council tax, and worse still, many different people saying that they've clawed back years' worth of council tax payments using the direct debit guarantee scheme. Now, make no mistake, those people that make a declaration to their bank that the amount taken for their council tax was wrong, or that the date was wrong, or that it was taken in error, or for any other sort of reasons that turn out to be false, if that is a false statement made to the bank, which is designed to make a gain for themselves or a loss to the council, that is the very definition of fraud. Section 1 of the Fraud Act 2006 provides that a person is guilty of fraud if he is in breach of any of the sections listed in subsection 2 below, which include fraud by false representation, a false representation merely being a statement of fact that is false, so a false representation. Section 3, fraud by failing to disclose information. For example, if the council asks you directly who's living within the property and who is liable for the council tax under the Local Government Finance Act, and their response is that there's no one living there, or that there's no one of the age or whatever that is liable to pay it, that would be failing to disclose information and potentially a false representation as well. But that is the more serious fraudulent element, where people have reclaimed their council tax payments without any legal authority, and quite possibly doing so with a false representation, which would amount to fraud. Let's go back to the simple situation where people are just flat out refusing to pay their council tax at all, where it is due. Now, there are situations where it may be wrongly calculated, wrongly applied, and all these sorts of things. So if that's the case, those people need to talk to the council to get it corrected and either reimbursed if they've paid too much, or correct the register so that the correct amount is showing. But all those aside, let's say that they are just refusing to pay the council tax that is due. Then initially they might be sent reminders to pay, and that's what some local authorities call the reminder game, where people only pay the council tax when they are in receipt of a reminder to pay the council tax. But even then, some local authorities will give you 3 strikes, i.e. after the 3rd reminder in any financial year, if they haven't paid the amount stated on the reminder within a time limit given, they'll be given a final demand. And the final demand is going to set out what needs to be paid, usually within 7 days. But ultimately, if the person continues to refuse to pay their council tax and refuses to comply with the demands, and all other enforcement methods have been unsuccessful, the local authority will issue a summons for that person to attend a committal hearing at the magistrate's court, where the local authority will ask the magistrates to send that person to prison. The maximum period of imprisonment for non-payment of council tax is 3 months. But it's also worth bearing in mind that these steps are to be reserved for willful refusal or culpable neglect. That means that this person has deliberately refused to pay the debt on the council tax account and ignored the responsibility or take any necessary steps to repay it. Now, obviously, there are some situations that are perfectly innocent and are not willful refusal and not culpable neglect, and many of those cases are dealt with by the charity Appeal, which represents such people that have ended up in these situations. But nonetheless, the statistics show that between the years 2010 and 2017, almost 700 people were sent to prison for not paying their council tax. And government statistics themselves also show that hundreds of people each year are committed to prison for non-payment of their council tax. Likewise, on a slight tangent, dozens of people are also committed to prison for non-payment of the fine attached to non-payment of a TV license. More about that in another video, which I've covered a few times before. But as I say, I am somewhat concerned by the pervasive nature of some of these videos and the narrative that is spread by certain groups to say that you shouldn't pay council tax and you should simply refuse to pay it, or worse still, make a declaration to your bank that they've been incorrectly taken, because one may land you in prison for non-payment of the council tax and the other may land you in prison for fraud. So I do these videos really as a reminder reminder to the sensible among you that may be looking at these videos with an open mind to consider or not whether there's any truth in these other videos that tell you you don't need to pay it, but hopefully give you some air of reason. And that is that if there's no real reason that you can't pay your council tax, that you very much should. That's not to say that you should pay it blindly without checking that it's accurate for the address, the number of people, the band, and so on. And if you really can't pay it, then you should communicate with the local authority. And if you're being threatened with court action, then seek the assistance of one of these charities, such as Appeal. I will link that in the description below, and hopefully someone will find that useful. But even as I sit here right now, there's another message popped up because I get lots of notifications for messages and comments left on videos and all sorts of other stuff. This one was from a commenter on TikTok saying that they've just received a fake court summons with 7 days to respond. Ironically, with the hashtag fraud, suggesting obviously that the council tax is the fraud rather than the efforts that these people are going to encourage other people not to pay it. Another commenter here says, I haven't paid my council tax for years now. In fact, it goes on, I've claimed back 10 years of council tax direct debits. So far, I've managed to get back 4 years. And whilst that doesn't make complete sense, it does suggest that this person has genuinely gone to their bank and asked them to reclaim direct debit payments because there's a direct debit guarantee. Because any payment that's taken by direct debit is protected by the direct debit guarantee. If you tell the bank that the amount is wrong, or that the date was wrong, or that it was taken in error, the bank is going to usually comply with that request. There is even a warning on the direct debit website that says if you receive a refund you are not entitled to, you must pay it back when the organization asks you to. So just to reiterate, unless there is a genuine error in the amount or in the date, or anything like that, then recalling a direct debit that was correctly taken in the first place by making a false statement and recalling the payment by dishonest means is going to amount to fraud. Now, bearing in mind that the test for dishonesty has recently been changed in, I say recently, 2017, which overturned the test for dishonesty that had been around for decades, it is now only really an objective test. Would an ordinary, reasonable, and honest person think that such an action was dishonest? If that's the case, then it is dishonest. So, like I say, if somebody recalls a direct debit that they're not entitled to, that is going to be dishonest and that is going to be fraud. So if you know someone that might be susceptible to these types of videos and messages and websites, and I think there are even groups around, even probably charging for membership and all sorts of nonsense. If you see these around, do share this video with someone like that. And if you'd like to hear more on the law about TV licensing, I'll put a playlist on screen right now that you can click to go and watch several videos on that. And in the meantime, I thank you for watching.